Hi, and welcome to Sarah and Mike's Best Picture podcast. I'm Michael Cole, and this is episode number 19. This week, we're going to be talking about the film Going My Way, which came out in 1944. The film starred Bing Crosby and Barry Fitzgerald, and was directed by Leo McCarey. It won Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Actor in a Leading Role for Bing Crosby, Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Barry Fitzgerald, Best Director, Best Writing Original Story, Best Writing Screenplay, and Best Original Song. It was also nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role for Barry Fitzgerald. He's the only actor in Academy history who was nominated for 2 different acting awards for the same performance in the same film. The only other time there's been anything even like that was when Al Pacino was nominated for Supporting Actor in Godfather 1 and then Leading Actor in Godfather 2. But because Barry Fitzgerald was nominated for both categories this year, they basically made it so you had to pick or choose which one you wanted to be entered into after this. It also won Best Cinematography, Black and White, and Best Film Editing. It beat out for Best Picture Double Indemnity, Gaslight, Since You Went Away, and Wilson. As this is the first year that we've covered that only has 5 nominees for Best Picture, I wanted to make a quick note and just say that since the Academy decided in 2009 to extend the field beyond the 5 slots, some people got really upset about that because they said it wasn't traditional and it hadn't been done before. But the truth is we're 17 years into the Oscars here, and we're just getting 5 nominees for the first time. I had been aware that there was more before that, but I know a lot of people just thought the 5 that we all were used to was the case up until 2009, but that obviously is not the case. With me, as always, is my wife, Sarah.
Good evening.
Ooh, good evening.
Changing
it up a little bit.
Yep.
It is in fact evening. It's 11 o'clock, so we might be a little quicker, but I think we've got a good chat tonight, hopefully. What did you think of the movie?
I liked all of the characters. I liked the premise of the movie. It's definitely not in my top 5, right. I would say. But it was sweet, and
would it be fair to say, because this is how I felt it. I felt like it's a fun, enjoyable movie without, and the characters are all good, but it doesn't have much substance to it.
Right. I thought the highlight of the movie was at the end, or whatever Bing Crosby was singing. It kind of drew your attention a lot more, obviously, because he was an extremely talented singer.
Yeah.
I kind of joked that it would be like if Michael Bublé would make a movie, or someone like that. But yeah, I just think of him also as a pretty likable, handsome guy, that would be really nice. Bing Crosby definitely came across as super nice.
Yeah.
And funny enough, even though this wasn't my favorite, one of the I've enjoyed a lot of the war movies, but it's not my favorite focus or genre.
Yeah.
And this one actually really didn't have almost any war in it.
Right.
But
other than the one guy that walked out in his uniform like he had enlisted, and there was no mention otherwise.
Yeah. It was pretty quiet on that. So yeah, those are my initial comments.
I think so. Basically, the storyline is a young priest goes to a parish with an old priest who's he's old and he's losing it a little bit. He's not losing it all mentally as much as he's just not capable of keeping track of the parish the way he has always. So he goes to the he goes to the parish to basically try to help them out because there's been some financial issues, and try to help them like get stuff together and so they can raise money to pay off some debts and stuff. Mm-hmm. And basically, that's the whole idea of the movie. And, you know, there's an initial resentment from the older priest towards the younger priest, even though the younger priest is unofficially in charge. The older priest doesn't know that. There's, you know, that kind of conflict. And ultimately what happens is they grow to like one another a lot. The Bing Crosby as the young priest ends up, taking on making a choir out of all the like kids that are kind of punk kids, and he turns them into a choir by you know, getting them Yankees tickets and kind of like getting them together and make, you know, and so there is, like I said, there's not much substance. Like it's a fun movie, you'll enjoy it. I will say that ultimately, it's one of those movies where there's, like, no bad guy, which I kind of like. Yeah. I always enjoy it when it's, like, the obstacle is something, you know, that they have to go up against and not a person. Because I think we do, as storytelling does tend to lean heavily on antagonists. And I thought, you know, there was no bad guy in this movie. It would be nice if there's more conflict than there was in this, but like ultimately, I do think it was a very good movie. It was a very enjoyable movie. I think, I mean, I haven't seen Double Indemnity in a long time. I think that's probably more of like a heavy hitter than this is, and I'm sure that if I knew the other 3 nominees, that I'd probably think the same of those. But I think it's interesting that we, you know, last week was Casablanca. Before that was Mrs. Miniver before that, or was there one in between that I'm missing? I think it was Mrs. Miniver.
I think Mrs. Miniver was the last one.
So we had 2 World War II movies, and then, you know, this is 1945 when the Oscars happen, and the war is coming to a close, or it's, you know, I'm sure people at that point are you're either on board or you're not, but you probably maybe don't want to see it as much in the movies. And so you get this very, like, a community banding together without the idea of war. And I think that's why it won, because it was likable, but everyone bands together in the movie for the most part and really like comes together. I also think that the Barry Fitzgerald, his character, and I'm forgetting the name, but plays the older priest. He's amazing. Like, he deserves the Oscar. Yeah. Bing Crosby is super charming and likable. I don't know, it's not a performance that would win up against a lot of other Best Actor performances that I've seen, but like I think that you know, it just had everything going in the fact that it's uplifting and fun and lighthearted. And I think that that's why at the very tail end of the war, that's why I would imagine this movie won.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Yeah. There's a couple pieces of trivia that I wanted to talk about. One's interesting. So, there's a movie that is kind of a sequel to this movie called The Bells of St. Mary's. And it's not exactly a sequel because it was A, written before this movie was, and B, it's a different studio, and ultimately it's just Bing Crosby's character is the same in both movies. He plays Father O'Malley? Or was O'Malley the older guy? Doesn't matter. Yeah. But he, there was this movie made called The Bells of St. Mary, which tends to be considered a sequel. There's a lot of interesting stuff with that because it's, we won't be talking much about it next week, but the sequel is the first sequel ever to be nominated for Best Picture. Wow. It sounds like it has a relatively similar thing, like they're you know, earning money to save the church. But like one of the things that's really interesting is, so the night of the Academy Awards where Going My Way won, Bing Crosby and Leo McCarey, the director, both won Oscars. And then Ingrid Bergman won an Oscar for the movie Gaslight, which was also nominated for Best Picture. And apparently in her speech, because she's the other part of, she plays a nun in The Bells of St. Mary's. In her speech at the Oscars, she said that she was really glad she won because the next day after the Oscars, they were going to start shooting the sequel to Going My Way, and if she hadn't won, she didn't know how she was going to face the two of them right after they won that, like the day after they won their Oscars. So she was really happy that she won. So all three of them start making this movie fresh off Oscars, and then all three of them are nominated the next year for this other movie. And the movie's nominated, so it's like kind of interesting because it's
cool.
There's a bunch of things about this movie that haven't really happened in Oscar history, and there's a couple of things that are firsts. Like it's the first movie that won Best Picture that also won Best Song. It's the first time a Best Director also won Best Writing, and so like it's just kind of, there's a lot of like stuff like that. That's interesting.
There's a lot of good dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
And the old priest is, like, really sweet.
Yeah, he is. There's this, so he's supposed to have been the pastor of this, he's from Ireland, and he's supposed to be the pastor of this church for 45 years, I think they said.
Yeah.
And at one point he's talking about his mother and how she's 90, and Bing Crosby's character talks about, now that we've raised the money to take care of the church, why don't you take a vacation and go back? We have it all set. You can do that. And as he's saying that, the guy's so happy, and someone runs in and says, the church is burning down. And so you see, like, they've just gotten themselves out of this financial hole, and now they're, the church is burning down, and so, like, that's obviously a huge problem, but also, like, he hasn't seen his mother in 45 years, and so he wants to, like, go see her, and at the very last scene, Bing Crosby's character is being transferred out, and his last thing he does during Mass, while the Barry Fitzgerald character is giving Mass, as he brings the mother in, and they just stop. She walks through Mass in this like little, it's not the full church, it's like a little like makeshift room because they've been rebuilding, and he had like had the mother brought over so that she could see him because he couldn't leave, and they're both crying, and you believe like that moment really feels like it, and they got like a legitimately very old woman to play, and that, like, you could see, like, she looked like she was 100 years old, and they just did a great job with that. And like, we were both, like, choking up a little bit at the end. And so they, like, did get you in a lot of spots with, like, emotion, and I thought that they did it without too much in the way of like, contrivance. I guess the idea that the church burnt down is a little contrived, but
there's also like it's not like it's an actual religious movie too. Like there's no like preaching in it, which I thought was like interesting. Yeah. And they're pretty like accepting of all the boys, just like the way they are. Right. Even when some of them are kind of like acting out or whatever, like. A little bit like bullying and stuff, like it's all just like all in fun between boys or whatever. They're just playing around, which keeps it kind of lighthearted.
It's also like very much not it's not. When you say it's not religious, that's like a super accurate point, because like
there's like literally zero. Like,
it's basically, I look at it as it's the ideal of what a Catholic Church should be like.
Yeah.
Like, the priests are these great guys who want to help the community.
Yeah, that's true.
And the community comes together. Even, like, the punk kids are really, they have hearts of gold.
Yeah.
And so, like, it is, like, ideal. And, there isn't a whole lot, like, they're trying to raise money, but, I don't know what the situation was like in Catholic churches during, that time period, but, like, we kind of think of the church as always, like, needing to raise money, but we also think of them as owning everything outright. And the fact that they had, like, a mortgage that was coming due is kind of interesting, because I, like, wouldn't have guessed, and maybe that's, like, something fake for the movie, or maybe it's something that doesn't happen anymore, but, like, I kind of always thought that the churches just owned that stuff outright.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing, like I was saying about the Oscars, that was different is, so Bing Crosby sang "Swinging on a Star," which won the Best Song Oscar in this movie. But in the movie, he ended up singing. Oh no, sorry, I misread that. So Bing Crosby ended up performing in 4 different movies' best songs winners, and so that's kind of, like, a lot. I mean, I know he's, like, a musician that was an actor, but I just thought that was funny.
There's something else I had, but I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But I also just liked the way that the older priest, like, was showing him, like, around the garden and just, like, different things that he, like, takes care of, and it just, like, really showed, like, kind of that TLC and, like, tender loving care that he really gave. Like I liked when he always would, like, go out and put water in, like, the bird bath. Like, even when the church is just, like, literally just burned down, he comes out, like, finally, like, it seems like, like, almost like someone's died, and, like, he's finally, like, back outside after the grief of that happening, and he's like, here, we need to give some water for the birds, and he puts water in the bird bath. And I thought that was, like, really cool. Like, you see him going around a few times, like, watering each and every plant in the garden and all that.
Yeah. One of the things, too, that they did with this movie, so when it first came out, the first public showing, which was on April 27th, 1944, was at 65 military locations, from Alaska to Italy, and from England to the jungles of Burma, but mostly in Europe. So that's what they very, very specifically targeted. I mean, I don't know that they were. I'm sure that they were also targeting civilian audiences, but it was probably something of a USO kind of thing too, where it was like, this is an uplifting movie. You guys are in, this awful war. Here, look at this movie. And I think that's kind of, it's interesting how this movie can have almost nothing to do with World War II in its content, but also, like, is such a product of, of World War II.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that's all the trivia I have. One thing I did... Okay, so there's this scene in the movie where Bing Crosby goes to... Or a police officer brings a young girl who I think we're supposed to believe is 19, I think they said she was. And he's supposed to bring her... Or the cop brings her by the church and is like, my wife won't let us, like, keep her any longer because she was like a stray kind of thing, and she'd run away from home. And so Bing Crosby does oh, let's play piano, and like, oh, you're really talented in music, kind of like, just like getting to know someone so that you can, like, give them advice. And that scene I think is really well set up, where he does the, like, he it's not flirtatious or anything inappropriate. It's just him discussing and, like, playing the piano and singing, and it's like a real like really good back and forth. And then there's a mention of her, Barry Fitzgerald's character comes in and is like, you're going to get married. If it was good enough for your mother, it's good enough for you. You're going to get married and take care of your children and stuff like that. And I thought it was, so that scene like worked, but then there is, they show her again. She's, started dating the son of the guy who's got the mortgage on the church, and then like they're quickly married, and then it ultimately goes nowhere. Like it's like a loose end that isn't really caught. Like, I mean, technically, they're all there at the end of the movie, but like it feels like there's a deleted scene that isn't in there, and so I just think that's a little odd and a bit loose endy, but
yeah. The only thing I can think is that they put it in there because it's like another person that Bing Crosby helps bring along, I guess. Yeah,
I guess. But it just needed, like, and then there is this, the scene where they kind of say that they got married and the father shows up and then he comes out in the uniform and the wife is like, you and I are going to have to band together while he's off fighting or whatever she says. And, I don't know, like, I'm like, oh, is that, like, was that supposed to be the scene where his whole thing turns around? That's the only complaint I have about this movie is I do think some of the character changes are rushed. I even think, like, Barry Fitzgerald I think his performance, amazing. I think the writing, his, coming around to liking Bing Crosby happens very all of a sudden. Because at one point he's going... I guess that scene kind of works. So at one point he's going to go to the bishop and tell him to transfer Bing Crosby, and Bing Crosby... And then he doesn't know that up until that point that Bing Crosby's been asked to come, like, kind of take over, like, take charge without taking charge, and I think there's a little bit of, like, thank you for giving me the dignity of not, like, coming in and being, in charge. But beyond that, I feel like there's just a lot of, like, character transitions that are kind of rushed through.
Yeah. I would agree with that somewhat. It felt like a pretty short movie.
Yeah, it is, I think.
So in that way...
No, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes.
I don't know, it just felt...
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't think the old priest, like, disliked him.
And you keep saying the old priest, all I can picture...
Sorry.
No, it's okay. All I can picture is it Dr. Evil that does, I need a young priest and an old priest. The power of Christ compels you.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, it's not even his line, but I don't remember it from the Exorcist. I remember it from Dr. Evil.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think it's kind of funny. Like, I like when he's like, oh, you should take him out to play golf. Like,
Yeah.
Like, sometimes relationships aren't, like, as simple as that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, he does all this stuff and
they
then,
bond
like,
over alcohol.
finally,
Yeah, that's true. No, you're right. In that one, it's pretty... Now that you're saying that, it's been... Did you watch it last night or the night before?
Last night. We started a few days ago, but yeah.
Yeah.
We watched the rest of it last night.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. So there is more to his character getting turned around than I thought, but
yeah.
I do find it funny. So, like, this is another one that I think would have been really good in color. I think, like, I don't know. I mean, it works in black and white, I guess, but, like, I don't know why they're all like, I get...
Yeah.
So when we talked about How Green Was My Valley, they didn't have the option to, like, digitally recolor things, and I'm sure painting frame by frame to recolor flowers would have been a pain. But, like, that movie should have been in color. Like, that absolutely should have been in color. I feel like this movie...
I don't think it needed to be, but I think it would have helped. I don't understand why, if they had that technology, unless it was, like, super expensive or super time-consuming, like...
Yeah.
I don't understand why they keep going...
I would imagine it's budgetary.
And, like, sometimes it seems like the quality of the film, like, It Happened One Night was far better quality than, like, this black and white. Like, this is the very dark, like...
And we're 10 years removed.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah. I think that, and that's what I mean, like, so I think also when you get something that's, like, upbeat and musical, it naturally feels like, I mean, it feels like it should be color.
Like, I think
the whole 1940s.
The Life of Emile Zola, I think, was better quality than the film quality of How Green Is My Valley and this one. Yeah. And maybe during the war, like...
Yeah. There was stuff with film stock.
And, like,
there were issues with film stock during the war.
Like, but materials, like, weren't going towards that. They were going towards military stuff, maybe. Yeah. Like, metal or... I don't... Like, that sounds crazy, but I don't know. Like, I know that some of that kind of thing...
I know in World War I there was a lot of film, like, celluloid was melted down and stuff because a lot of those things could be made into, bullets and inflammatory things. But I think, honestly, I think it's budgetary, but I didn't...
Like, maybe there was just less budget? Yeah. During the war, or
with How Green Was My Valley, they talked about they had to reshoot a couple times, or there was like weather issues with the cameras, and they had to go black and white because of the flowers were like they're supposed to be red and they were blue or something.
Which I think
it's like such a non-issue. Intense. Like if you and I filmed a movie, like I could recolor the flowers and it would be not that much work now. But like, as opposed to like,
But still, like, think about who would know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Like, who would be like if you did that now in a movie. Yeah. Like, think of a country where, like, maybe we're just ignorant and we don't know, but like, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe back then the flowers were only that one color. I don't know. It's just that was like very odd.
I don't have a problem with black and white. It's just that the black and white cinematography in a few of these movies it's not that sharp. It's not that contrasty. Like, there are ones that we've watched where it's very you're like, oh, the black and white is a part of like cinema. Casablanca last week. Casablanca, I don't think would have been better in color. I think that black and white lends that part of its feel and its tone, and in a good way. Yeah. With this movie, I really feel like it could have been color, and the color, like, I don't know, would have just made it like it would have matched in visual what it is in every other way, with the music and with the uplifting, character arcs and everything else. I just feel like the color would have made sense. I also just think it's funny that So We Get Gone with the Wind is the first color one, and I've looked ahead. I'm pretty sure we don't have another color Best Picture until like 1953 or 2 or something like that. So the entire 1940s, this technology exists and nothing wins with color. And that's really bizarre too. Yeah. So anyway, that's something that I thought was, I guess, like, what I would say about this movie is it's really good. You'll enjoy it. But there are, like, things that you'll go, yeah, it should have been in color, or, yeah, it is kind of light on plot, or, or on structure. But, like, it's, to me, it did feel a little bit like when we watched the Broadway Melody of 1929, and like, oh, they have this set of songs, and they're going to make a movie about it. And they're going to make a movie that strings the ability to put all these songs in. I felt like that was the case with this movie, But I feel like they did a really good job weaving a story around the songs. Is that fair?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's been a fairly short episode, but at the same time, I'd rather just go short and then ramble on too long. Next week we will be talking about what the hell's the name of that movie? The Long Weekend. I was gonna say, I know it's in my email because Netflix has already sent it out. We should be getting it tomorrow, but it's The Long Weekend. So if you are wanting to, watch along with us, you can check out The Long Weekend for next week. After that, we've got, I think after that is The Best Years of Our Lives. So we got to just go ahead and look on like IMDb at what the list is and try to figure out if you want to like jump in anywhere with us. If you have any movies that we're coming up on that you have comments on, trivia, anything, please feel free to tell us on the Chocolate Diamond Facebook or chocolatediamondmedia.com. You can also email me at mikediamond82984@gmail.com. If you want to, give us any feedback or anything, feel free to do it through those channels. You can also check out any of my other writing at michaelchristophercole.com, and I also write over at World's Best Media. Anyway, we will talk to you next week with The Long Weekend.